So the first thing I want to talk about is being felt. My employees in my company can feel me even though I'm not in the state. They know where I am, they know what is going on, and I'm constantly communicating, and they feel that I'm present when I'm not there. And the reason that is so important is, as your team, who has more than 5 people on their team? Those relationships, you know, and that's a fair amount of you guys. You guys are starting to build your team up. Who has more than 10 people on their team? Who has more than 20 people on their team? That's awesome. Like, a lot of good teams getting built out. But as your team gets builder, it's harder to be felt. And as you leave the market, or if you want to work remote, it's harder to be felt. And so I had to work on that. So how did I do that? So actually one of the better things that happened to me was COVID, because I made this move, then COVID hit, and then it went to remote work. So it kind of rapidly made my team trying to have to figure it out. But the most important thing I had to figure out was what was going to be my schedule, how are they going to feel me, and how am I going to keep them motivated, right? So things that we did, and we'll talk about it in a second, is we put in tech, but part of it was I had to make a commitment because I had to get on a travel schedule. Just because I was moving states and wanting to remote work, I still had to figure out what the balance was. So typically, on average, is every month I'm in Seattle to 8 to 9 nights a month. I have to make that commute. I had to build it in my schedule. That was part of what this transition was. The goal is to get down to 4 nights a month by the end of the year, to where I'm going up to Seattle 2 to 4 nights a month, and then I can bring it down a notch. But it has to be layered in. I couldn't make that big jump where when I first moved, I would come up 12 to 13 nights a month. And so I've slowly phased it down so my team gets more and more used to it. And during this time, we've had 0 turnover, because that was my biggest concern. Making sure that my team felt good about it, they trusted me, they wanted to be with me, but they had to adapt, and I had to kind of do it on a tapered phase. One thing that if you guys want to make this transition, another thing I'm really big about is you still need to make those in-person meetings. Zoom and all this technology is great. You can communicate, you can go through projects, you can get the systems ironed out, but if you don't have that in-person connection and communication, it can really bring your sales and your whole team down. And so I do want to emphasize that I make the time to get up to Seattle, I meet with every one of my employees, I'm going through their goals, I'm going through their jobs, and they still have that connection. The next thing is, when you're working with people, they have to have clarity in what they're doing. You know, if I'm in the office all day, I can kind of rapidly improv things. I can, fix issues with them at that time. But if I'm not there, they need to know detailed what the systems are. So in that first year, we have very good systems at our business, but I had to document everything out. They need to know what happens, when it happens, and then lay it all out for them. If they don't have those systems in play, like today, if we're starting something new and I haven't formally written it out and given the game plan, it doesn't go well. My team doesn't adapt as well. So as a business owner, I have to pencil in the time to make sure that I'm laying out all those plans. The next thing is accountability. They still have to have accountability to me if I'm not there. It's really easy for me to go into the office and see who's working and not working, but if I'm not there, I don't know what's going on. So things that we also do is we have a schedule of remote meetings with all my core staff and management teams. No matter what, that meeting is hitting if I'm out of town, because I want to stay engaged with them. I want to figure out what their goals are and keep them accountable as well. Clear communication is essential. Ambiguity, vagueness does not work when you're trying to manage remote. They need to know clear direction, be decisive. And then also access. Even though we have all these transactions going on, my employees and my staff knows that they can get a hold of me at any time when they need to fix that issue and continue on. And you guys, this seems like a lot, and for everybody that wants to work remote or work out of state, you don't have to do these things. But when we are doing 1,000 to 1,500 transactions, there's so many things going on. That's the way that we have to operate. In addition to me moving down to California didn't mean that I didn't want to stop growing. We have done more transactions since I moved. Every year we are growing our transactions. I'm not in a stable, that's just the way I'm wired. I want to grow every year. If I'm doing 300 to 400 transactions with my brokers this year, I want to do 5 next year. And the next year I want to hit 6. And so having that access allows me to grow. Now, if I get to a point where I don't want to grow anymore, I can kind of bring back my access. But you really want to take inventory on yourself, what your goals are, and how do you want to scale them that point, and then you can set up the right management from there. Processes and paperwork.